I made a mistake a few years ago that I promised myself I would never make again. It was mid-July. The garlic had been pulled, the spring lettuce was a memory, and I had 3 empty beds sitting in full sun. I looked at those beds, I looked at the seed packets on my shelf, and I did absolutely nothing. I told myself the season was winding down. I told myself it was too hot to start anything new. I told myself I would get a head start next spring. Then September came, October came, and I watched gardeners in my own neighborhood pulling carrots the size of my forearm, cutting armloads of greens, harvesting vegetables I had not even thought to plant. They did not have more land than me. They did not have more experience. They just planted something in July, while I stood on the sidelines. If you have ever felt that quiet sting of watching someone else's fall harvest while your own beds sit empty, you are not alone, and you are not too late. Welcome to Timeless Harvest. Every week, we walk through the garden together, figuring out what to plant, when to plant it, and how to keep the harvest coming long after everyone else has packed it in. If that sounds like the kind of garden you want, hit subscribe and let us make this season count. Today, I am giving you 5 crops that belong in your July garden, and by the time September rolls around, you will be so glad you planted them. Let us get into the first one. Crop number 1, string beans. If there is one vegetable that deserves a spot in your July garden, it is this one. String beans are one of the fastest crops you can grow from seed, and warm July soil is exactly what they need to explode out of the ground. I am talking germination in 5 to 7 days, flowers by early August, and your first harvest by the end of the month. That is less than 60 days from seed to plate. Very few garden vegetables can give you that kind of turnaround in the second half of summer. The soil temperature in July is sitting right in the sweet spot for beans, usually between 70 and 80 degrees, which means the seeds do not rot in cold, damp ground the way they can in spring. You just push them an inch into the soil, give them a good drink of water, and stand back. Beyond speed, string beans are one of the best things you can plant for your soil. They are legumes, which means they pull nitrogen from the air and fix it into the ground through their roots. When you pull your bean plants at the end of the season, you are leaving behind richer soil than you started with. That is free organic fertilizer for whatever you plant next. If you have ever grown beans before, you know the taste of a fresh one picked warm off the vine. It is sweet, it is crisp, and it tastes absolutely nothing like the ones from the grocery store. My kids will stand in the garden and eat them raw, straight off the trellis, like they are snacking on something forbidden. There is no comparison. I have started blanching and freezing the extras, and in the middle of January, opening a bag of those bright green beans feels like pulling a piece of summer out of the freezer. They grow beautifully in containers, in raised beds, or tucked into any empty pocket of garden space you have. Water them deeply twice a week. Give them something to climb if you are growing a pole variety, and they will reward you with more beans than you know what to do with. And if you plant a second succession in late July, you can be eating fresh string beans all the way into October. I have done this 3 years in a row now, and it never gets old. There is no reason to let that space sit empty when this crop is waiting. Crop number 2, zucchini. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Zucchini in July, the seed packets say spring, but here is what experienced gardeners know that the packets do not tell you. A July planting of zucchini actually dodges some of the worst pest pressure of the entire growing season. Squash bugs and squash vine borers are most active in late spring and early summer. By the time July rolls around, their peak egg-laying period is winding down. When you plant zucchini in July, you are giving your plants a much better chance of growing up without being attacked in their most vulnerable stage. The soil is beautifully warm. Zucchini seeds germinate in just a few days, and the plants take off like rockets. Choose a fast-maturing variety, 50 to 55 days, and you will be harvesting tender, young squash by late August or early September. And there is something else. By late summer, everyone else's zucchini plants are looking ragged. They are covered in powdery mildew, the leaves are yellowing, and the fruit is coming in sparse and oversized. Meanwhile, your July-planted vines are fresh, green, vigorous, and pumping out perfectly sized summer squash, just when the garden centers have stopped selling them. One healthy zucchini plant can feed a family, and if you have ever grown them, you know the real challenge is not getting them to grow. It is keeping up with the harvest. I have walked outside in the morning, found a zucchini the size of my forearm that was not there the night before, and just had to laugh. It happens that fast. The trick is to check your plants every single day once they start producing, because a zucchini can go from perfect to baseball bat in about 48 hours. Pick them young, when they are 6 to 8 inches long, and the skin is still tender enough to eat. They need consistent water, especially in the heat of July and August, so mulch heavily around the base with compost to hold moisture and keep the roots cool. Zucchini is also incredibly versatile in the kitchen. You can grill it, roast it, spiralize it, bake it into bread, or shred it if you simply cannot eat another one. It is one of the most productive summer vegetables you can grow, and planting it in July gives you a second wave of abundance when everyone else's squash season is over. That alone makes it worth the space. Crop number 3. Fall carrots. Most people think of carrots as a spring crop. They buy the seeds in March, they plant them in April, and they harvest in June. And that works fine. But a spring carrot is just a carrot. A fall carrot is something else entirely. Here is what happens when you plant carrot seeds in July. The warm soil speeds up germination, which can be slow and spotty in the cool ground of early spring. The seedlings get established quickly, and then as the days begin to shorten and the nights start to cool in September and October, something magical happens. The carrot plants begin converting their starches into sugars in response to the dropping temperatures. This is a biological response to cold. The plant is essentially protecting itself from freezing by sweetening its roots. What that means for you is a carrot that tastes sweeter, richer, and more complex than anything you will ever pull out of the ground in June. I have had fall carrots that tasted almost like candy. You bite into them, and there is an earthy sweetness that spring carrots simply do not have. I remember pulling my first fall carrot, brushing the soil off with my thumb, and just standing there in the garden stunned at what I had been missing all those years. It was one of those moments that redefined what I thought I knew about growing food. The key is timing. You want to get your seeds in the ground by mid-July, because carrots can take 70 to 80 days to mature. That puts your harvest window in October and November, right when the cool weather has done its work. Choose a variety bred for fall harvest. Keep the seedbed consistently moist until germination happens, which can take up to 2 weeks. Some gardeners lay a piece of burlap over the row to hold moisture, checking daily and removing it the moment they see the first sprouts. Thin your seedlings ruthlessly. Carrots need space to develop good roots. If they are crowded, you will end up with a tangle of stunted, twisted carrots that are impossible to peel. Give them room, keep them watered, and let the cold do the rest. A light frost will only make them sweeter, so do not panic when the temperature drops. You can even leave them in the ground under a thick layer of mulch and harvest them all winter long. There are few things more satisfying than pulling fresh, sweet carrots from your garden in November when the rest of the vegetable world has gone to sleep. Crop number 4. Swiss chard. This is the crop that does not get nearly enough attention, and I am going to fix that right now. Swiss chard is one of the most heat-tolerant greens you can grow, which makes it absolutely perfect for a July planting. While spinach bolts to seed the moment the temperature climbs, and lettuce turns bitter and sends up a flower stalk before you can blink, Swiss chard just keeps going. It thrives in the heat, it does not bolt easily, and it produces for months and months on end. When you plant Swiss chard in July, you are setting yourself up for a fall and winter harvest that will keep your kitchen stocked with fresh greens long after everything else has been pulled. It is a cut-and-come-again crop, which means you harvest the outer leaves and the plant continues producing from the center. One planting in July can feed you from September all the way through the following spring in milder climates. The leaves are tender and mild, similar to spinach but with a slightly earthier flavor that pairs beautifully with garlic and olive oil. I throw it into everything: pasta, omelets, soups, you name it. There is a deep, almost buttery richness to it when you saute it slowly that spinach just cannot match. The stems come in a rainbow of colors: bright pink, golden yellow, deep crimson, making it as ornamental as it is edible. Swiss chard looks beautiful tucked into a vegetable garden, woven through a flower bed, or even growing in containers on a patio. I have a row of it along my front walkway, and neighbors stop to ask what those gorgeous plants are. It grows best in soil that has been amended, with plenty of organic compost, which helps retain moisture and provides the steady nutrition that leafy greens need. Water it consistently. Mulch around the base to keep the roots cool during the hottest weeks of July, and give it a little shade during the peak afternoon hours if you live in a particularly hot climate. That is all it needs. It is not fussy, it is not demanding. It just quietly produces while other greens are long gone. If you have never grown Swiss chard before, this is the July crop that will make you a believer. Crop number 5. Daikon radish. This is the crop that makes gardeners stop and ask, really, radish in July? Yes, but not the little red salad radishes you are picturing. Daikon radish is a completely different vegetable. These are large, white, cylindrical roots that can grow over a foot long. They are crisp, mildly spicy, and incredibly versatile in the kitchen. You can slice them raw into salads, pickle them, stir-fry them, or grate them into soups and stews. They store for months in a root cellar or the crisper drawer of your refrigerator, which makes them one of the best storage vegetables you can grow for winter eating. But the real magic of daikon radish happens underground. These plants have deep, thick taproots that drill straight down into the soil, sometimes 18 inches or more. As they grow, they break up compacted earth, create channels for water and air, and essentially till your garden from the inside out. When you harvest them, you leave behind soil that is looser, healthier, and better structured than it was before you planted them. This is a crop that feeds you and heals your garden at the same time. I have put daikon radish into heavy clay soil that I could barely get a shovel into, and by November, that same bed was soft and crumbly. That is not an exaggeration. The roots essentially do the work of a broad fork without you ever having to lift a tool. Plant daikon radish seeds in mid to late July directly into the ground, about ½ an inch deep and 4 to 6 inches apart. They germinate quickly in warm soil and grow rapidly through the late summer and fall. The roots will be ready to harvest by October and November. If you leave a few in the ground too long, do not worry. They will send up flower stalks, and those flowers will feed pollinators at a time of year when blooms are becoming scarce. You can also eat the young seed pods, which taste like a spicy snap pea. Every part of this plant gives you something. In a garden that is winding down, daikon radish is still working, still producing, still giving back. And when you pull those long white roots from the cool autumn soil, you will understand exactly why this crop belongs in every July planting plan. There you have it. 5 crops that turn the quiet month of July into the most productive moment of your entire growing season. Here is what I hope you carry with you out into the garden. The season does not end when the peas stop producing and the spring lettuce bolts. It simply shifts. The soil is still alive. The sun is still generous, and there are seeds waiting to be planted that will give you a fall harvest most gardeners never experience. You do not need more space. You do not need more time. You just need to plant something in the gap. That empty row, that bare patch of soil where the garlic came out, that container on the patio that has been sitting idle since June. It is all waiting. The regret of an empty garden in September is real, and it is completely avoidable. If this guide gave you a reason to get back out there and plant, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Tell me which of these 5 crops is going into your July garden. And if you want more harvest wisdom that stretches every season and fills every plate, subscribe to Timeless Harvest. New videos are here every week to help you grow more, waste less, and never stare at bare soil again. Until next time, keep planting. The best harvest of the year might still be waiting under the surface.